fellow learner, and welcome to this week's Book Hacks, where we discuss the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And this is one of my all-time favorite books. And let me first start with the most important idea of this book, which is that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Because according to Simon Sinek, businesses, individuals and movements of all kinds should always start with why, which is their reason for doing something. The why should be the basis for every decision and every message businesses and its leaders transmit. Sinek says that by doing so, they will attract not just customers, but instead raving fans who stand for long-term success. Now, Sinek suggests that leaders in organizations need to stick to a few easy principles that anyone can learn. And these are: 1. If you want to motivate, don't manipulate, but captivate. 2. Communicate from the inside out. And 3. Maintain the integrity of your why. Now let me share a little business story for every principle so that you'll know what I'm talking about. And let's start with the first principle: don't manipulate, but captivate. Now you might not know the Wright brothers, but these brothers built the first engine-powered plane in 1903. And unlike their competitors, they had no trained team, no major ties to the industry, and no financial support. And they weren't motivated by the expectation of becoming rich or famous or so, but by the mere challenge of making the impossible possible. And this devotion was key to their success and gave them the necessary advantage over their competitors. And what you can learn from this is that when you have enthusiastic employees, they will bring personal resources to the table and sacrifice themselves to achieve the common goal without being prompted. And they don't act for the sake of rewards or incentives, but because they recognize a deeper meaning. They actually feel their calling, which is the trigger for being so enthusiastic. Now the second principle is about communicating from the inside out. And Sinek uses the golden circle, which is probably the most simple concept ever existed. And it consists of 3 circles: the why circle, the how circle and the what circle. And Sinek says that most companies start with what. And he says this is far less engaging than when you start with why. And let me give you an example, because Apple is probably the best example for this phenomenon. Now let's suppose Apple would say something like this: we sell computers. They are user-friendly and visually appealing, and we do this because we want to challenge the status quo and we want people to think differently. Now compare this when we don't start with what they do, selling computers, but instead with why they do it. Here goes. In everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we do it is by making our products beautifully designed and simple to use. We just happen to make great computers. Now, if you'd ask me, this approach is far more appealing and engaging. And what Apple does is just very simple. They reverse the order of the information. They don't start with what, they start with why. What you can learn from this is that when you communicate from the inside out, when you start with why, the product itself usually doesn't matter as much, because customers are convinced by the business itself and happy to buy whatever it sells. Now that brings us to the final principle: maintain the integrity of your why. And the book tells a story about Walmart, because Walmart's original why was to serve customers and its staff. However, once its founder, Sam Walton, died, the focus was shifted towards maximizing profits at the employees' expense. And consequently, dozens of employees sued the company for being severely underpaid, and Walmart ended up paying hundreds of millions of dollars in penalties and settlements. So the big lesson here is the hardest part isn't finding your why, but when you continue to grow as a business, staying true to your why. Okay, so these were 3 short business stories and its key lessons on how to get your why off the ground. so that you can inspire other people with the true reason you are in business. Now, thanks again for watching this week's lesson, and I encourage you to move on to the powerful lessons in this week's course, where we discuss how to craft stories about your personal why, which are highly engaging for your target audience. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see each other next week.